Anesthesiologists of Reddit. What was something you won't forget hearing from someone that was under? My husband was put under to get his wisdom teeth out. He was a little anxious and also is just kind of anal. He's an engineer, so he read his pre-op instructions front to back like a dozen times. One of the things it said was you may experience profound disorientation upon awakening. As he woke up, he opened one eye and looked around the room, then said extremely huffily, "I wouldn't call this profound." Then he started crying. I was giving a young female patient sedation for a routine colonoscopy, and as I pushed the propofol, sleepy medicine, it started to hit her. She sat straight up and yelled to everyone in the procedure room, "I shaved my asshole for you." And she flopped down on her pillow and she was asleep. I was coming out of the fog of anesthesia from a colonoscopy. Apparently I didn't recognize my wife and refused her affections, telling her she was pretty, but I was married. Got big brownie points for that. My dad asked my mom to pick up his butt cheek so he could fart and it was too heavy. Anesthesiologist here. For better or for worse, I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan, so I wear a scrub cap with the Packers name/colors on it. I was doing a pre-op evaluation on a kid who was a big New Orleans Saints fan, and when I walked into the room, his first words to me were "Packers suck." I laughed and continued to prepare him and his family for his redo open heart surgery procedure. Fast forward to surgery a couple days later, and his mom had come back to the OR as he was going to sleep. Given the fact this was a 3 or 4 time reduced sternotomy, going into the chest again, he had a higher risk of major complications from the surgery. I started to push some meds to have him go to sleep while his mom was holding his hand, and as he drifted off, he said, "Wait, I have to tell my mom something." She got emotional saying how much she loved him, and we were all waiting to hear what he had to say so urgently. I paused giving him the medication, but he was already well on his way to being under, and as he drifted off to sleep, he said, "Packers suck. Kid did great. Hope he is doing well. Smile." Edit, RIP inbox. Thank you for all the awards. The kid did great, and hopefully will not need any more surgery for 20+ years. Cheers everyone. My husband had his Ackland meniscus repaired. When they brought him back into the room, he stared at me through half-closed eyes until the nurses left and then said, "I love you. I'm glad you're here." I melted. Then he conked back out for about half an hour and woke up with a big gasp. I thought he was in pain. That's how loud it was, and went, "Burger King burger." I said, "You want a Burger King burger?" He said, "I do." So I had to get him a Burger King burger for dinner. He doesn't remember anything until he was back home several hours later with Burger King sitting in front of him. Lol. Nurse here. Was 22F, had a teen boy come out of anesthesia who looked at me and said, "Hey, you're the girl from last night?" I had to reassure everyone that that wasn't me. I had a surgery to remove bone spurs from my big toes in early February of 2005. I woke up while the doctor was grinding the bone down and asked if he thought Donovan McNabb could lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl win. He nodded at the anesthesiologist and I don't remember anything after that. As I put someone out for a colonoscopy one time, the patient said, "You're cute. Are you gonna see my butt?" Then she was out. Edit, for those of you asking, yes. For colonoscopies we typically use deep sedation. This is in the US. 99.9% of the time this means propofol, the Michael Jackson drug. Most of us will give some lidocaine through your 4 first. This helps prevent the burning sensation in your 4 that propofol can sometimes give, and follow it right up with propofol to knock you out. Almost never need analgesics like fentanyl. I gave a patient an 4 dose of ketamine for a pain procedure. He proceeded to tell the room that everyone had turned into cartoon characters and then he announced he was melting into a wall of butter. Still my finest achievement as a physician. My wife was all doped up during her C-section and asked the anesthesiologist, "Did they cut me open yet?" He calmly told her they did. To which she replied, "Aw shit," with a huge grin on her face. The doctor and I lost it. Edit, wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and stories. I'm scrolling through everything laughing my ass off. Y'all are the best. I'm sure the anesthesiologist that did my son's dental surgery will never forget him. Specifically, because he came out after the fact clearly trying very hard not to laugh to tell my wife about it. Kiddo was just chatting away while he was getting ready. Now my son is autistic and at the time had a very distinct way of speaking and pattern of emphasis along with a lisp. I literally cannot translate how he sounded talking into text. Edit. Thanks/you/schmobsola for giving me a good idea of actually how to describe this. Imagine you had a soundboard of Butters from South Park that had all these words on it from vastly different conversations and strung them together into the sentences below and you'll have a pretty decent idea of it. He sounds a bit different than my son but it's about as close as I can get. Anyway, just as they're getting ready to put him under he goes, "You're gonna need some hardcore nighttime medicine cause I have ADHD and out." practically snoring even. They get to work, finish up and pull the mask off him. The literal second the mask was off his nose he bolts upright and finishes his sentence from however long earlier. That stuff don't work good on me. One of my patients coming out of sedation embarrassed her husband who was in the room by saying that during their sex he likes to have Vicks rubbed on his backside. One guy said, before falling asleep, "Whoa, that feels like a dime bag." Kind of on topic, when my mom woke up after having a stroke, the doctor asked if she recognized the people in the room. She got my sister's name right, called me my brother's name, and smiled real big at my stepdad and called him asshole. Apparently when I was going under I told the anesthesiologist, "Don't mess this up, I know where you work." I woke up singing the Magic School Bus theme song while someone 3 beds away was screaming in agony. My husband had knee surgery. After he woke up he half yelled half whispered at Ju 5s, so the nurse gave him apple juice. Several small cups full. He grinned like a toddler and said apple juice and immediately flopped back and went back to sleep for all of 10 minutes until he woke back up gasping that he couldn't breathe. His mom, who I had met maybe 1 or 2 times at this point, went up to the foot of his bed to grab a nurse in the doorway and he bolted upright. That man projectile vomited pure apple juice directly into her face/body/the wall/the door/hallway. I have never seen anything like it in my entire life. His mom stood there soaked in juice vomit and he just rubbed his eyes and said, "I feel better." Bam. Back to sleep for another 2 hours. Lol. I was told after surgery I said I love dogs and I want to eat the Taliban. A little girl was going under and she was holding her mother's hand. She reached out for my hand with her other and as she was going out she joined mine with her mother's and said, "You would be a nice daddy." I probably went beetroot red as I blushed, not the anesthesiologist, but as a surgery tech working next to them. Patient: woozily, "Doc, will I still be able to integrate after this?" Gas passer: "Integrate? Like what?" Patient: "Like the sum of fx from a to b when gas passer pushes more milk of amnesia was under anesthesia for a breast reduction." As I was coming out, my nurse was talking to me and apparently I started saying gets an angel and she looks like Barbie. I kept yelling for Barbie angel and possibly kept trying to hug her and pet her hair. I cried for her on the way home. She called to check on me later that night and referred to herself as Nurse Barbie Angel. She was the sweetest. My husband woke up from anesthesia after a colonoscopy just after the doctor walked in. He didn't see the doctor and told me no blowjob for you, then fell back asleep and ripped a big fart. The doctor looked at me and busted out laughing. He said not to be embarrassed. People say the weirdest things but this one he'd remember. I'm an anesthetist. Woke up a 70-years-old PT who got a penile prosthesis implant for erectile dysfunction. First thing out of his mouth in his post-surgery stupor was to request a private room and find out when he could take this baby out for a test drive. He was a happily married jokester. I got put under for my wisdom teeth at 17. When I came to, the nurse or whatever was like, "Okay, you're probably a little groggy, just sit tight for a while." And I was like, "Fuck that, I feel amazing." And proceeded to swing my legs off the table, which sent my top half spinning right after it and falling flat on my face. People laughed. I remember the laughter. I was under general anesthesia to get my gallbladder removed. As I was being wheeled back through the double doors there was a giant TV screen that listed the surgeries going on. I was way too loopy to actually read it, but I swear I saw elbowectomy and started hysterically laughing over the idea of removing an elbow and being left with a floppy arm. Apparently what I actually said was elbow jello and then passed out. My aunt, who notoriously despises fast food, old Mexican lady whose food is as good as it gets, woke up and looked at my uncle and said, "Are you the sexy man that's gonna take me to McDonald's?" If you knew her you would know that she would never say that. She has never lived it down. I ask a patient after surgery how he feels. He opens his eyes, stares me dead on and says with my fingers. Then he goes right back to sleep. A girl woke up and asked if she had been hit by a train, and then when one asked if she knew why she was there she looked down and patted her chest and said implants. She was having her ACL repaired and her mom was there. It was me. I was 19. I've never lived it down. I was brought home after by my wife but was still loopy. She told the construction workers outside to make sure I didn't leave the house. They let me help pour concrete and fixed what I fucked up. Nice guys. My daughter made them free I made, so they were always cool with us. Patient here, came out of anesthesia and heard Gaudier's Somebody that I used to know playing in the recovery room. I asked my so why they were playing it at like 10x the normal speed and the nurse just goes okay so she's not ready to go home yet lol. Patient here. I was a teen. Apparently before I went under I kept mumbling it's buried, don't worry. Stop worrying, it's buried, it's gone. My mom was there and said the staff were eyeballing her uncomfortably, and years later to this day every year she still asks me if I remember anything, that if ever I need to talk she'll support me no matter what. I honestly do not know what I meant. Had my wisdom teeth out. When I woke up I was so excited to get my now extracted teeth and keep them as a souvenir. The nurse said I couldn't. She wheeled me out to the front door where my wife was waiting to load me into the car. She saw my disappointed face and asked, "What's wrong, honey?" I turned and pointed to the nurse and said through my gauze-stuffed mouth, "This fucking bitch won't let me keep my teeth." My stunned wife apologized and the nurse explained that it's fine but they were a biohazard, to which I replied incredulously, "They were in my fucking mouth an hour ago!" Edit. On a slightly related note, my mill has promised me that I can have her titanium hip after her cremation for a shifter in my car. Love that woman. This guy I was dating, he asked me to take him to get his wisdom teeth removed. He told me that anesthesia doesn't affect him a lot and we were supposed to go on a road trip the next day. So anyway, he gets wheeled out of the dentist by an old nurse. I'm behind the driver's seat and I see him smacking his lips looking up at the sky. She opens my car door and he said, "I love her. I love her." He then proceeded to ask me to marry him several times. He tried to pull out his gauze and I told him stop and he said, "Man, this bitch is bossy." Then he wanted a milkshake. I would suggest a place and he would scream no. Finally we agree on a place and he tells me he'll give me directions. I drive for 15 minutes before I ask him what we're doing and he said he has no idea. We're in the drive-thru and he says, "I have something for you." I swear I thought he had bought me a ring the way he had been proposing for last hour. It was his newly extracted teeth. "They let me keep them. I want you to have them." He lived on base at the time and was yelling at the gate while they checked his ID for them to hurry up. I finally get him to his room. In bed, he's happily eating his milkshake with a spoon. His mouth was a mess of blood and milkshake. He asked me for a kiss. I gave him a peck. We're married now. Edit. Wow! Thanks for all the love you all! He's just as sweet when he's not sedated too. So I'm a lucky girl. I have had to get colonoscopies every couple years since I was 24, so I've gone under quite a bit for someone my age. Every time, when I wake up, I'm crying. And a nurse is comforting me. They say I don't tell them why I'm upset. But I'm weeping every damn time. It has gotten to the point where I warn the nurses I'll be sobbing. But to not take it too seriously. Anyone else have this? Was recently under for abdominal surgery. My partner of 17 years who I dearly love was the first face I remember seeing when coming out of anesthesia. I looked at him and said, "Who the FK are you and why are you staring at me?" He's still laughing. My mom woke up from dental surgery and when we were leaving the surgeon's office, he gave her a goodie bag with floss and a toothbrush and stuff, and the whole way home she kept asking if she could eat the candy that the dentist gave her. Every time I told her there was no candy, she looked so heartbroken. Like a little kid when their goldfish dies or something. Then we stopped at CVS on the way home and she wandered off. I found her in the candy aisle holding a giant bag of fun-sized candy, and when I told her to put it back on the shelf she dropped it on the floor and galloped away laughing at me. I was 17 at the time but got my wisdom teeth taken out. Everything went as planned. But I woke up and remember seeing the oral surgeon. Me, being dosed with grade A giggle juice and having no idea WTF I was doing, asked her if she would like to grab boba sometime. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. 5 years later, she let me shadow for part of my dental school shadowing requirement and is giving me a lure for applications next cycle. Not a boba date but all things considered, she was a great mentor.